Hi everyone, I'm Lady Teddy. I'm going to be reading to you guys from Magium, which is a text-based choose-your-own-adventure story app game that is free and it's on both Android and iOS. There's a lot of different playthroughs that you can play, so I highly recommend you guys download it for yourself if you're interested in this story. If you do not want to watch or play it for yourself, but you would like to know more about what's going on, I would recommend that you all of my previous playthroughs are on YouTube in a Magium playlist that you can check out and watch at your own perusal. So currently what we're doing right now is we've finished book 2. In order to get to book 3, we need to unlock, I think it's 25 achievements, and I think we are at like 18 or something. So right now what we're doing is we're achievement hunting. There's going to be some that we're not even able to do, which I should have looked up. Hang on. Let me, I should have pulled this up. Magium Achievement Guide. Book 2. Okay, because some of these are going to require us to have made certain things happen. So, I'll still let you guys try and get the achievement if I will check to make sure that it's even possible for us to get it. Bonjour, YouTube, if chat ever appears in video, it will! It will. It's gone now by the time I read it, but it did show up briefly in the video. Okay, so yeah, the way that I do this is I read out loud I read the story. When it gets to a choice, we were doing a smart good playthrough, but now we're achievement hunting, so I need to rephrase how I did this. When we get to a decision, I'm going to remind you guys what the achievement goal is, and then I will allow you guys to try and help me get to whatever the achievement is. If no one wants to participate, that's totally fine. I will just guide us through. If if no one wants to participate, I'll just guide us through. Yeah. I know that a lot of people like to just... Sorry, I'm a little spacey right now. I've started my stream spacey, and then I spent my stream banging my head against a wall, metaphorically. So, even more spacey. I know that a lot of people like to listen to this and just fall asleep or relax, and that is totally fine. So if no one wants to participate, you don't have to. I will just go with whatever the majority of chat says by the end of the minute, and if no one says anything, I will make a decision. So without further ado, here we are. There it is. So, we're gonna go to okay, so which achievements have we gotten from chapter 1 of book 2? The only one, so we got Bearer of Bad News, volunteer to take the role that nobody else wants to take. Second piece of the puzzle, find the second piece of the puzzle made by Varathia's greatest architect. Half-breed, find out an interesting detail about your lineage. So what we need to do now is long distance, which I don't think we'll be able to do. Yeah, not possible to get this one. So chapter 2. Oh, we haven't gotten any of these. Come at me, bro. DL Miller, hello. Thank you for the hug. Try not to fall asleep. If you fall asleep, that's totally fine. I'm honored that my voice has this effect. How are you doing, DL Miller? So come at me, bro. Take all of your opponent's hits head on instead of trying to defend yourself. Accept the easy way out. Accept the help of a shady individual without lying to him in exchange for making your life easier in the arena. Make a reference. I don't think we'll be able to do that one. Make a reference that your game character would have no way of knowing without breaking the fourth wall. Ride a griffin and live to tell the tale. So, fourth wall, we won't be able to do. And I don't think we'll be able to do the easy way out. But we can do Come At Me, Bro. And I'm pretty sure we'll be able to do Griffin Rider. I forgot how long these do. I remember this chapter. Am I able to get... Damn, that's annoying. Your internet really said fuck this story. Sorry to hear that. Taco Ninja, thank you so much for the follow. No, maybe we'll just... What do you guys think? Should I speedrun chapter 1? And when I say speedrun, I mean I'm just gonna be making the decisions I remember us making. Or should I just go to whatever my next save point was, which was chapter 4? We need, so 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. We need 7 more. Oh, there's so many. Just skip to chapter 4. Alright. We can do that. Oh wait, I forgot that this means that we're starting in the middle of chapter 4. Shit. That does make things more difficult. Man, why is achievement hunting so annoying in this game? Okay, we're gonna just read chapter 1. Fire Fairy, hello, welcome in. How have you been? Trying to remember the decisions we made. The first time we did a playthrough. Okay. In order to get one of the achievements in the next chapter, we can make it. You know what? I'm just gonna read you. This is gonna be new dialogue. What's going on is they're talking about slavery and stuff, and he's like, "Stop trying to free the slaves because I'm gonna make an alliance with the animal kingdom, and in a couple months I'll start freeing the slaves myself." Actually, I think we've already had our filled quota of rash actions for the week. A few months is too long. Maybe we can take care of your Lasathe problem instead. We did this one last time, so instead, we're going to do this one. Actually, I think we've already filled our quota of rash actions for the week, I say. These Lasathe you spoke of, Kate tells Golmick. Do you know if they are working with the other artificial mages? Is there a woman called Diane who controls the electricity helping them? As far as I know, the Lasathe from my city are not using any mages as bodyguards, Golmick says. My spies would have certainly found okay, that's not new. Alright, next chapter. Dope. We did it! You've been great, glad to hear it, Yup. Hi. I'm glad to hear that you, Yup, Hi, and Fire Fairy have been doing great. Which is you'd rather not, you have to be up in the morning, so you need to get some sleep. Sleep well, DL Miller. I appreciate you for being here. Thank you for stopping by to say hi. Okay, so the achievements that we can get for this one. Come at me, bro. Take on all of your opponent's hits head on instead of trying to defend yourself. The easy way out, accept the help of a shady individual without lying to him in exchange for making your life easier in the arena. Fourth wall breaker, make a reference that your game character would have no way of knowing without breaking the fourth wall. Ride a griffin and live to tell the tale. So we can't do fourth wall breaker, but we can do the other three. Currently, these are what our stat points are. If we're going to be taking some hits, we should probably have some toughness. We have 3 available points. Every time I place the Undertale Genocide run in the vote, it absolutely destroys. I know it does. Unfortunately, I have officially rage quit that game until I'm better at playing video games. As of today. Would anyone like to make some suggestions here, or should I just do the thing? It does matter if you're better. You need to have a certain amount of coordination. And I do not have that coordination because I'm new at video games. Okay. Listen, Araka, Darren says as we walk towards the arena. Are you absolutely sure that the Eden you fought during the still winter is the same person as the one we're dealing with now? I mean, it's been 600 years, right? No one would blame you if you were to make a confusion after all this time. Fire Fairy, I really don't want to talk about Undertale anymore. I don't want to talk about it. I'm sorry. It's just, yeah, I'm done. Damn it, this is the third time you've asked me this exact same question, Araka says. Yes, it's the same Eden from 600 years ago. Get it through your thick skull already. Darren, why are you finding this so hard to believe? Kate says. We already knew that he was 600 years old and that he has an old acquaintance of Araka and the Golden Fox. Given his power, it wasn't that big of a stretch to assume that he was the one who defeated Araka all that time ago. Araka's a bitch. It's not the fact that he could defeat Araka that I find hard to believe, Darren says. It's the fact that he is known as the founder of this continent's civilization when all we've seen him do so far is wreak havoc for the sole purpose of his own amusement. People change over time, Kate says. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Eden tell you when you first met that the reason he's keeping his eyes closed is because he got tired of seeing the ugliness of humanity? You've seen the way he acted around the Earl and the ambassador of Allendor. It's clear that he no longer holds anything other than disgust and disdain for the inhabitants of Varathia. Leaving Eden aside, I say, shouldn't we be discussing our plans for the arena? Don't worry about the arena, Hadrick says. I alone should be more than enough to deal with whatever the ambassador can throw at us. Oh yeah, I say. And what if they separate us? Barry makes a good point, Darren says. The first thing we need to make sure of is that we can still communicate with each other, even if they decide to throw us in different cells. Darren takes off his backpack and he takes 3 transceivers out of it. Kate, Hadrick, Flower, take these, he says, as he gives each one of them a transceiver. Barry, you already have a transceiver. I don't think I've shown you this before, but you have a dial. Oh, we might not be able to get the first one, I just remembered. Barry, you already have a transceiver. I don't think I've shown you this before, but you have a dial on the right side of your transceiver that you can use to change your calling frequency in order to match the signature frequency of one of the other transceivers. Does everyone see the dial I'm talking about? Yes, we all answer. Good, Darren says. Each of the transceivers is assigned a number, which corresponds to its own unique signature frequency. Make sure you memorize everyone else's numbers Make sure you memorize everyone else's number so you'll know who to contact when the need arises. The numbers are engraved on the back of the transceivers. I look at the back of my transceiver and see that I am assigned the number 2. When we exchange our numbers, I learn that Kate was number 3, Flower was 4, and Hadrick was 5. Alright, Darren says. Now, you all know your numbers. As As an aside, if you ever need to communicate with transceivers that aren't enchanted by me, there's a small button next to the dial which you can use to switch to normal frequencies. I'll be using the transceiver with the number 6. What about number 1? I ask. Darren pauses for a few seconds. That's the number of the transceiver I was using originally, Darren says in a low voice. The one I gave to Rose. Oh, I say, and then we all stay silent for a few moments. So, do we know for sure that they're going to allow us to keep our transceivers after we get sent to our cells? Hadrick asks. You will be allowed to keep any items you wish, the king's servant says after having overheard our discussion. You will each have your own personal cells in which you can store your belongings, but you will be allowed to carry items with you as well. What about weapons? Darren asks. Are we allowed to use our own weapons and armor during the fights in the arena? Yes, as long as your weapons don't cast any spells, you are allowed to use any weapons you have at your disposal, the servant says. What do you understand by casting spells? I ask. Would an item that enhances your physical abilities be considered spell casting? It depends on the nature of the item, the servant says. Without knowing what item in particular you are referring to, I cannot give you a definitive answer to your question. Tell him about the stat device. Don't tell him about the stat device. If anyone would like to weigh in on which decision we make, now is your chance. Otherwise, I will make a decision in about a minute. Alright, 2 people say tell, 1 person says don't, so we're gonna tell him. I pull the stat device out of my pocket and show it to him. I'm talking about this item, I say. Do you know of it? The servant smiles. Yes, I am familiar with it, he says. Do not worry, the stat booster's effect does not count as spellcasting. The magic detectors in the arena will most definitely ignore it. Hey, Barry, Darren says, and both the king's servant and I turn our heads towards him. How long can we delay our trip to the arena? Darren says, without looking at the king's servant. Can it wait half an hour? I was thinking I could cast some basic sharpness and durability enchantments on my friend's daggers if I find a shop that sells elven steel along the way. You were correct. They don't care. But for the record, since we've already played through this, the servant is a spy, and telling him gave their enemies ammunition to blackmail him. But we already played through this, so it didn't matter. Also, we're going to be accepting the help. There is enough time, the king's servant says. If you're looking for a shop that sells enchanting materials, there should be one in the marketplace we'll be reaching shortly. Why do you need elven steel specifically? I asked Darren. Elven steel is the best quality steel that money can buy, Darren says, and basic enchantments like sharpness and durability are highly dependent on the quality of materials used for enchantment. Is there any chance you could enchant my crossbow as well? I ask. You are not allowed to use ranged weapons within the arenas of Varathia, the king's servant says. I'll be honest with you, Barry, Darren tells me. Even if ranged weapons were allowed, I would still not recommend getting your crossbow enchanted. It would be much better to just buy a new one. Basic enchantment just isn't a good substitute for poor craftsmanship. With daggers, it's different because the quality of the metal is much more important than the way the blade was made. Why do you keep talking about basic enchantments? Hadrick says. Aren't you supposed to be one of the most skilled enchanters in the world? Why don't you just cast some of those crazy enchantments you have on your sword on Barry and Kate's daggers? Darren frowns at him. The more advanced the enchantment, the more time and resources it requires, he says. It would take me weeks to cast the enchantments I used on my sword, and it would cost a small fortune to acquire the needed materials. I doubt that I'll be doing anything other than basic enchantments for the duration of this tournament. Barry, Kate, give me your daggers. I will enchant them both as soon as we reach that shop. Once he found the shop, Darren went in, and he didn't come out until exactly half an hour had passed. After Darren got out of the shop, he first gave Kate her dagger, and then he stopped in front of me, with his hand held out looking as if he were expecting some sort of payment. That will be 10 gold coins, Darren says. You can pay it with money from the Western continent if you want. You're charging me money? I ask him, a little surprised. Well, what did you expect? Darren says. It's not like I was given all that elven steel for free, you know. But you didn't ask Kate for any money, I say. That's because I didn't happen to see her pocketing a few dozen expensive gems in a certain ogre fortress a few days ago, Darren says. You, on the other hand, should have money to spare. So that's how it is, I say with a grin. Cough it up, Darren says, with his hand still held out. Fine, fine, I say as I place 10 gold coins into Darren's palm and then take back my dagger. It took us about 2 more hours to get from the marketplace to the arenas. Once we reached our destination, we waved goodbye to the king's servant. And then we went inside a small building near the arena, which we were told was the main office. The room we entered looked more like the inside of a prison than an office, but there was a man sitting at a desk in front of us who seemed to be arranging some papers when we came in. The man paid us no mind until he finished what he was doing, and then he got up and greeted us with a curt nod. Alright, yep, hi. Thank you for hanging out. It was good to see you. Sweet dreams. I was told that you'd be coming here tonight, he says in a disinterested tone. Only 3 of you will be participating? Am I correct? 4, Hadrick says with a wide grin as he hands his admission letter to the king. As he hands his admission letter from the king to the desk worker. I see, the desk worker says after he reads the letter. Very well then. Given that I am the only one who is still working at this late hour, I will have to ask that you wait patiently in the lobby while I lead each of you to your individual cells. Can't we all just go at once? Hadrick asks. No, the desk worker says. The ambassador of Allendor insisted that neither of you are to know the locations of each other's cells. He also made sure that you are each placed in separate divisions so that you cannot work together during the arena events. Divisions? Darren asks, confused. We'll start with the Lasathi, the desk worker says, ignoring Darren. He walks to a door behind him and he turns to me. This way, he says. I take one last look at everyone else and then I go to follow the desk worker. Good luck, Barry, Flower shouts as I head through the door. Petal and I will be cheering for you from the audience. I'm sure that Uraka will too. Once the door closes behind me, I start to walk slowly behind the desk worker as we both begin to make our way down a very long flight of stairs. We didn't exchange any words while we traversed the dark corridors beneath the arena. With all the twists and turns we took, it was hard to tell if I could still find my way back by myself. The torches inside the underground tunnels were dimly lit, and all of the doors looked the same. After a long period of silence, the desk worker finally chooses to speak. There are currently 2 empty cells in your division, he says. Cell number 3 and cell number 5. They are located on opposite sides of the recreational area. I haven't been ordered to place you in any specific cell of the 2. Which one would you prefer? I don't know, I say. What's the difference between the 2 of them? There is no difference, the desk worker says bluntly. No difference at all? I ask. None whatsoever. So why are you asking me then? I'm asking you so you can make a decision. Now choose. Which will it be? Cell number 3 or cell number 5? I know which one will lead to an achievement, I believe, in the next chapter. Is there... Okay. I'm still gonna... I'm pretty sure that's the right one. I guess I'll go with cell number 5 then, I say. Very well, the desk worker says. Cell number 5 is located on the right side of the recreational area. Its number is written on the door. He stops in front of a door and he pulls a key out of his pocket. This is the key to your cell, he says, as he hands me the key. You are advised to leave your belongings inside your cell and to lock the door when you are away. You can choose to spend most of your time locked inside your individual cell if you wish, but you will be required to spend at least 2 hours a day in the recreational area during the recreational period in order to learn to get along with your new teammates. The desk worker then pulls another key out of his pocket, and he uses it to open the door in front of him. This door will lead you to the recreational area of your division, he says. I recommend that you go directly to sleep because your next recreational period is scheduled for tomorrow morning. I nod to him and then go through the open door. Farewell, the desk worker says as he closes the door behind me. The room I am now finding myself in is only being lit by a few candles. The recreational area appears to be empty except for one particularly bulky man wearing leather armor who is now steadily approaching me. I've been waiting for you, the man says in a menacing tone. I heard that they'd be bringing you in tonight. Do I know you? I ask him, confused. No, I don't see why you would, the bulky man says as he stops a few feet in front of me. I don't know who you are, either. Then why were you waiting for me? I say. Because I've heard the guards talking, the man says. They were talking about a group of mages who killed the Earl of Allendor, and I heard them say that a member of that group would be sent to our division tonight. I'll have to admit that I wasn't expecting a Stillwater. I remained silent. There would be no point in correcting him. As much as I'd rather have everyone think that I'm an all-powerful Stillwater, I'd much rather have everyone think I'm an all-powerful Stillwater than give away the fact that I'm not a mage at all. It doesn't matter, though. The bulky man continues. You may as well be one of the 4 sages for all the good it will do you. Magic is not allowed here. I could very well crush your puny head with my bare hands, and you wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Now why would you want to do that? I ask him. Aren't we supposed to be part of the same team? The man's face contorts into a snarl at the sound of my words. Do you have any idea what you've done, you little bastard? The man shouts. Nope, I say. No idea whatsoever. Why don't you explain it to me? Oh, I'll explain it to you, the man says, grinding his teeth. Your little stunt with that noble has sealed all of our fates. I heard the guard saying that the next arena event will be the greatest in all of the history of Varathia. They're not expecting any of us to make it out alive. They are sending us all to our deaths, just to make sure that they also kill you in the process. The man is now clenching his fists so hard that blood is starting to drip out of it. While the two of us were talking, the doors leading to the individual cells were opening one by one, and the people who had been woken up by the sound of the bulky man's voice were now stepping out of their rooms to watch the show. The only reason why I came to Thilius, the bulky man says, was because I heard that the Gnome King would rarely let the arena events in his city endanger the lives of the gladiators. I came here because I thought it was some easy money to be made. But now I'm just sitting here waiting for my execution, cursing my fate, cursing you. Why don't you just leave then? I say. You think I didn't try, the man shouts even louder than before. The owner of the arena isn't letting any of us go. It's the first time in years when he's being allowed to make the show as deadly as he wants. Do you know that he's been collecting rare beasts and keeping them in underground tunnels for the past 10 years, waiting for a chance to parade them in front of an audience? Well, now that he's finally been given permission, the man is planning to make us fight every single one of them. He wants to make this the crowning moment of his career. He doesn't care about what the King of Thilius will do to him if he goes overboard. As long as this one show is successful, he may as well die for all he cares. And so can we. Get a hold of yourself, I tell him. You're acting as if you're being sent to the gallows, not a gladiatorial event. I didn't come here to waste time wallowing in self-pity. I came here to win. After hearing what I had to say, the man completely loses what little self-control he had left, and he swings his right fist at my face with full force. Yes, we got it. Achievement unlocked. Come at me, bro. I make no attempt to dodge his strike, as the man's fist hits me in the bridge of my nose. The impact of the blow made me feel almost no pain. The impact from the blow made me feel almost no pain, and it didn't even make me move an inch from my original position. As the bulky man retracts his arm, I look at him with the same disinterested expression in my eyes, and as the with the same disinterested I look at him with the same disinterested expression in my eyes as the one that the desk worker had when he looked at me. This makes the man even angrier, and he begins to put more strength behind his punches, but that doesn't help him much. After about 20 seconds of continuously hitting me in both my head and my stomach, during which I never even bothered to block a single one of his strikes, my attacker suddenly steps back as if he's only just now understood the futility of his actions. The astonishment was clearly visible on his face, as he just stood there and looked at me without saying anything. "Are you done?" I ask him. "Maybe I was wrong about you, Stillwater," the bulky man says in a tone suggesting that he's still trying to get over the shock of what he just witnessed. He then puts his hands on his shoulder, and then he then puts his hands on my shoulders, and he looks at me with the hope of a man who had not dared to hope any longer. "Maybe you were right," he says. "Maybe we can still win this, as long as we work together." "Well, we all are part of the same team. How about you apologize for attacking me first?" "Which would y'all like? I'll give y'all about a minute." Second one? Okay. "How about you apologize for attacking me first?" The man starts to laugh and he takes his hands off me. If it's an apology you want, Stillwater, then you can have it," he says. I am not ashamed of admitting my mistake. I should not have assumed that you were weak just because you were a mage, and I should not have attacked you without reason. Now, will you fight alongside me in the arena?" "I guess so," I say. "We are part of the same team, after all." "That we are," the man says with a wide grin on his face, as he gives me one long look full of respect. Of the 4 people that were spectating our fight, 2 are now going back to their cells, 1 is heading towards me, and the last one is still standing by the door, watching me intently. The one who is heading towards me is a man about my age who is wearing his hair in a ponytail, and who has a way of smiling that reminds me of Eden. The one that remained by the door, watching me, is a girl with long silver hair who appears to be no older than 20. The man with the ponytail stops in front of me, and he smiles politely. "I see that you were able to hold your own against Bruce, even without your magic," he says. "Impressive! Not many would dare to face him head-on like you did just now. May I ask your name?" Premonition check failed, level 2. Yeah, didn't have it. "Yeah, it's Barry," I say. "Barry?" the man asks, a little surprised. "That's an unusual name for a mage." "So I've been told. Forgive me, I didn't mean to sound rude, it's just that most mages I've met in the past have had very unique names. Most parents who find out that they have a mage in the family feel the need to show it off in any way they can, so they usually give them pretentious-sounding names like Zalnir or Vazaroth. It's almost like a tradition, but to give such a common name as Barry. My parents have never been the type to follow tradition. I see, the man says, smiling as he extends his hand towards me. My name is Wilhelm. Pleased to meet you. I shake the man's hand and he keeps smiling at me with a friendly expression on his face. Listen, Wilhelm says. I know that you haven't really gotten the best of receptions here in our division, but I personally think that there's nothing worse than having a fight with a teammate before a life-threatening event such as this. I just wanted to let you know that I'm on your side. Thanks for letting me know. Sorry, but I prefer to work alone. Yeah, I'll give you all about a minute. Thanks for letting me know. Thanks for letting me know, I say. Well, that's all I wanted to say for tonight, Wilhelm says. We should both go to sleep. I hear that the recreation period is starting early tomorrow. Yes, I've heard that too, I say. Have a good night. Same to you, Wilhelm says, as he starts heading towards his cell. After Wilhelm closes his door, the girl with the silver hair watches me for another few seconds, and then she also goes inside her room, shutting the door behind her. I decide that there's no use in lingering any longer, so I head towards my room as well. When I get inside my cell, I see that the only piece of furniture available to me is a bed made entirely out of stone. I lock the door with the key I got from the desk worker. I throw my backpack on the ground, and then I go sit down on the bed. The only source of light in the room appears to be coming from a very small window above me, which gives me a direct view towards the corridor outside the recreation area. There doesn't seem to be any movement in the tunnels outside my cell. The guards must either be sleeping or patrolling a different corridor. I take a sweater out of my backpack, and I use it as a makeshift pillow to put on my cold stone bed. As soon as I place my head on it, I fall asleep, and I wake up 7 hours later to the sound of the guard's voice coming from outside my cell. Get up, the guard says. It's recreation time. Go recreate. Come on, get out of here. I reluctantly get out of bed, put my sweater on my backpack, and then head back towards the recreation area. I make sure to lock the door behind me on my way out, and then I head towards a corridor. And then I head towards a corner of the room where there are no people around. I take a quick look around the room to see who else they placed in my division. Aside from Bruce and Wilhelm, who I met yesterday, there's a silver-haired girl that was staring at me, and then there are two more individuals that both look like the gladiator versions of Cutthroat Dave. The two thugs seem to be the only ones who are actually talking to each other. The other three are each standing somewhere as far as possible from everyone else. Leaning with their backs against the walls, their arms crossed, waiting for the recreation period to be over. What am I supposed to do now? I can't say I feel like talking with any of these people. What is there to talk about? We weren't even told what the first round will be like. How are we supposed to make a strategy? Maybe I should just go back and get a book to read or something. As I stand there think about going back to my cell, Bruce suddenly moves away from the wall and he starts to head towards me. When he stops in front of me, I see that he has an unusually serious look on his face. "Listen," he says, "I saw that you were talking to Wilhelm yesterday, after your fight with me, so I wanted to give you a warning." "A warning?" I say. "Yes," Bruce says, "about Wilhelm. He might seem like an ordinary guy to you, but in reality he's a trained assassin. I can tell by the way he moves and speaks. These assassin types can never be trusted. They're not real warriors like you and me. The only way they know how to fight is by stabbing people in the back. You should be careful around him. I don't believe anything he says." "Huh," I say. "That's good to know. I'll look out for him. Thanks." "Just make sure that you don't get yourself killed before the arena," Bruce says. "You're the only one besides me who can actually put up a fight in this blasted division." Bruce then pats me on the shoulder, and then he goes back to where he was standing at the beginning. Just as I was about to go get that book, it's now Wilhelm who is approaching me, with a determined look on his face. "Listen," Wilhelm says, I'm not sure exactly what you were talking about with Bruce, but you should be careful around him." "I should?" I ask him. "Yes," Wilhelm says. "You already saw the way he treated you yesterday. He is the kind of person who likes to act before he thinks, and these types of individuals are always dangerous. He might act friendly towards you now, but who knows what he'll do tomorrow. When you're up against unpredictable brutes that prefer to rely on their fists instead of their reason, you can never know when they'll turn against you." "That's nice," I tell him. "But I have a feeling that this isn't what you came here to talk to me about. Is it?" "No, it isn't," Wilhelm says. "What I wanted to tell you is that, from what I've heard, in a few hours from now, the ambassador and the arena's owner should be discussing important matters about the organization of the arena events. The guards from this place have a habit of overhearing these types of conversations, and they usually like to discuss them amongst themselves. Make sure you pay close attention to what they're saying when they're outside your cell. I will do the same." "I see," I say. "I'll keep that in mind." "All right," Wilhelm says. "That's all I wanted to tell you. I'll make sure to let you know if I hear anything. I hope you will do the same." "Of course," I say. I suddenly realized that the girl with the silver hair was staring at me again. In fact, I think she's been staring at me for a long time. Wilhelm notices me looking towards the girl, and he gives me a smirk. "I wouldn't waste my time talking to that one," Wilhelm says. "We've all tried, but she wouldn't say a word. I think that our little silver-haired princess is either mute or she's taken a vow of silence of some sort. Either way, I doubt that you'll get anything out of her." He then bows politely, and he goes back towards his corner of the room. As Wilhelm walks past the girl on his way back, she pays him no mind and she keeps looking directly at me. Okay, now I'm certain she's doing it on purpose. But what does she want from me? Does she want me to go talk to her? I guess there's only one way to find out. I calmly start heading towards her while paying close attention to her reactions. The girl seems unfazed by my decision to approach her, and she keeps looking me in the eyes even after I stopped in front of her. Now that I take a better look at the girl, I see that she is at least one head shorter than me, and she has a very frail constitution. I can see why Wilhelm would choose to call her a princess. She definitely doesn't look like a fighter. Her clothes, however, are nothing close to what a princess might wear. She's wearing a simple beige blouse, short leggings that seem comfortable to move in, and wooden sandals. Despite her frail-looking body, the girl is wearing 2 knives on her belt, and her arms and legs are full of bruises, which indicates that she's likely been in a fight shortly before she was incarcerated. Seeing that the girl has no intention of saying anything, I take it upon myself to initiate a conversation. So, are you going to tell me why you've been staring at me for the past 5 minutes? I ask her bluntly. The girl gives me no sign of having heard me, and she keeps looking at me without any change in her expression. Well, I say, aren't you going to say anything? Still no response. Wilhelm was right. This is pointless. I turn away to leave, but then I suddenly feel something pulling on my sleeve. When I turn back, I see that the girl is now holding me by my shirt sleeve, and there is a blue-colored writing floating mid-air in front of her face. The writing is in the common language, and it says simply, "Wait." The writing then disappears, and it is replaced by a new text, this time saying, "Is it true, what they say about you?" What do you mean? I ask, looking at the girl. What do they say about me? Just like before, the previous phrase is now being replaced by a new text, which says, "They say that the reason why you were brought here is because you attacked a noble. Is that true?" Yeah, that would be the main gist of it, I say. But why attack a noble? The blue writing in the air says. Didn't you know how dangerous it would be to attack a noble in Varathia, let alone kill one? We did, I say, but we were trying to free a slave. And either way, that bastard had it coming. The writing disappears again, but this time there is a short pause before the next text appears. You don't seem to like our nobles very much, do you? The writing says. Oh, I hate them with a passion, I say. The girl smiles. It is the first time that I see an actual change in her expression. The first time that I see an actual change in her facial expression. I see, the writing says. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Layla, and I have also been brought here because I tried to free a slave from a noble. The girl then extends her hand towards me. I'm Barry, I say as I shake her hand. Pleased to meet you. Barry, I have a favor to ask of you, the writing says. Could we continue our conversation inside my cell? There's something else I want to ask you, and I'd rather do it in private. Go inside her cell. Do not accept to go inside her cell. Here, chapter. This won't affect, Okay, and I'm probably gonna end soon. You're not the only one around, but a lot of people fall asleep during these streams. Sometimes people are very active and sometimes not. To accept. Alright, let's go, I say. Layla nods and she opens the door to her cell. As we both enter her room, I notice the fact that Wilhelm was watching us attentively, and there was a bit of disappointment on his face when he saw that I had accepted the girl's request so easily. It's only after Layla locks the door that I suddenly start to feel a sense of danger, and I jump back from her, watching her carefully. "What are you doing?" Layla writes, looking at me confused. "I'm trying to tell if this is a trap or not," I tell her. "A trap?" Layla writes, with a somewhat shocked expression on her face. "For what purpose? Aren't you aware that killing or critically wounding or critically injuring a member of your own division is against the rules?" "Not really," I tell her. "Nobody bothered to tell me the rules of the arena before coming here." But it's one of the standard rules of all the arenas of Varathia," Layla writes. "I'm not from around here, remember?" I say. Layla sighs and she goes to sit on her bed. "In that case," Layla writes, you'd better take care to also not harm the organizers or any of the spectators. That is against the rules as well." "Are there any other standard arena rules that I should be aware of?" I ask. "Yes," Layla writes. "Magic and ranged weapons are not allowed in the arena, and neither are items that can cast any spells. But don't worry, your stat booster doesn't count as a spell-casting item. The magic detectors in the arena will ignore it." The girl laughs when she sees the look on my face. Even her laughter is silent. "Yes, I know about your stat device," Layla writes, while smiling. "How?" I ask her. Layla pulls a small trinket out of her pocket, and she shows it to me. It's a stat device just like my own. "You see, my stat booster is a little special," Layla writes. "Not only does it allow me to transform my thoughts into written words at will, but it also lets me know when there are other stat devices in my area. My father is the one who made these modifications. When you first came in here, I almost bought your Stillwater story, but when I saw that you had a stat booster with you, I knew at once that you were a Lisathi. There would have been no point in carrying such a device with you unless you were part of the only race that it was designed to work for." "But the same goes for you, too, doesn't it?" I ask her, starting to finally understand what's going on. "Which means that you are also a Lisathi." Layla nods. "Then how come you are here, in this arena?" I say. I had the impression that Lisathi have a higher status than Sorry. "Then how come you are here in this arena?" I say. I had the impression that the Lisathi have a higher status than nobility in this continent. Can't your father just pull some strings in order to have you released?" Ads, okay. Oh, you're back? Okay. Layla Layla looks down at the ground for a few seconds before her new text appears. My father and I are outcasts, she writes. We aren't treated the same way as the other Lasathi. We've been in hiding for years, but a few months ago my father was sold to a noble and made into a slave. The reason why I'm here is because they caught me yesterday, shortly after I managed to rescue him. I see, I say. After they enslaved him, I never thought that I'd see him again, Layla writes. But a week ago, when the tournament began, I started receiving my first stat points. I finally felt like I had a chance to free him. I waited until I could upgrade my speed, strength, and combat technique stats in combat technique stats to their maximum level of 3, and then I single-handedly defeated all of the guards holding my father prisoner. I only wish that I'd waited until I could invest a little more in toughness as well. Layla then shows me the bruises on her arms and legs. After I freed my father, Layla continues, I made him promise that even if I got captured, he'd go to Allendor without me, and wait for me there. Allendor is the only remaining city in Varathia where the Lasathi hold no power. In Allendor, we could be safe from them. But the city's guards caught me before I could get out of the city. I held them off until my father could escape, but I was already weakened from the previous battle, and I couldn't beat them all. In the end, they tied me up and sent me here. I arrived in the city yesterday in the afternoon, not long before you made your appearance. You mentioned that you had to wait until you could max your strength, speed, and combat technique, and that your current maximum level is 3, I say. But wouldn't that mean that you only had 9 available stat points until yesterday? Yes, and I still do, Layla writes. That is the reason why I wanted to talk to you in private. When I first saw how quickly I was gaining my stat points 1 week ago, I was amazed, but that was only because I didn't know about the tournament. Apparently, it had been announced many times in the past few months, but it's easy to miss these kinds of announcements when you live mostly on the outskirts of the city in order to avoid detection. It was yesterday in the afternoon, when the Gnome King announced the first round's objectives, that I first found out about the tournament. This made me realize how much magical energy there really is around us. I would have expected the stat booster to gather a lot more energy given these circumstances. What I wanted to ask you was this. How many points did you get to spend on your stats until now? 19 points, I answer her. 19? Layla writes, looking somewhat shocked. She pauses. Then I suppose my assumption was correct, Layla writes. It really is harder for a stat booster to collect energy inside the city. I've been noticing that too, I tell her. I've only gotten 2 points since I entered the city, but I used to get points a lot faster before, unless I was traveling through completely deserted areas. Maybe it's just because there aren't very many mages from the tournament who found their way to this city? Perhaps, Layla writes, or perhaps it's because there are other stat device wielders in this city, and the energy is being split equally among us. You think there might be other Lasathi using stat devices in this city? I ask her. I don't know, Layla writes. It's a possibility. Can I have a look at your stat booster, please? Yeah, sure, I guess. I say as I take my stat device out of my pocket and show it to her. The girl gives the device one long pondering look before she writes again. Thank you, Layla writes. I wanted to see how fast your I wanted to see how fast your stat booster is gathering energy compared to mine. Yours is working a little better, but not enough to justify a 10-point difference between us. Can you tell all that just by looking at it? I ask her. No, of course not, Layla writes. Not by looking. I can tell by sensing the flow of magical energy surrounding it. Can't you? Well, I guess I can sort of feel the flow of it, I say. But there's no way I could tell which one of our two devices is gathering more than the other. That's strange, Layla writes. If you can't even tell the difference between our two devices, then how did you know that this stat booster was designed to work for Lasathi before coming to this tournament? From what you've told me, it doesn't seem like you are acquainted with any other Lasathi, so you must have discovered it on your own somehow. Unless, Layla pauses, unless you had absolutely no idea how powerful the device would really be, Layla continues, and you were planning to keep pretending that you are a Stillwater until the end of the tournament, with your stat device only as a backup plan. Okay, I think I'm gonna end here. Okay, that is cool. Transfer achievement to cloud, transfer checkpoint, 1, 2. Okay. Alright, well thank you everyone so much for hanging out. And thank you everyone for being patient with what was going on. I know that may have been a little annoying to watch. Achievement hunting definitely gets more difficult the farther we go into the story. So thank you everyone for being patient. My next streaming day should be tomorrow, Tuesday, or technically today. I'm going to be streaming Skyrim. I hope you all have a really lovely rest of your day, or night, or whatever it is wherever you are. Since I know there are people probably sleeping and relaxing, I don't normally like reading out because I don't want to end up waking anyone up or anything. So I'm just going to end here. So have a really lovely rest of your day, or night, or whatever it is wherever you are. You all are wonderful, I hope. Yeah, time for me to go to sleep. So good night!